Hello everyone, I thought I'd make a little video describing how to write some basic Latin sentences, do some basic Latin composition. Writing Latin is difficult, but it's about the best way that you can practice grammar without doing worksheets. And since we're doing this e-learning thing, doing our typical, fun sheets as I call them, is not really feasible. So we are going to be doing a little more writing to hopefully help ingrain that grammar. So I'm just going to go through how you should be thinking about the different cases, how you should be approaching writing sentences in Latin. So first things first, we have to have this chart. That's the most important thing for writing Latin. These are all of our endings. So if you don't have this chart written down, I would write it down somewhere in a notebook, or I have under the notes section of a lot of the classes, I have this chart pinned somewhere, so you print it out, but have this handy while you're writing sentences. It will help you immensely. And remember that the nominative is one of the most important nouns in a sentence. It is your subject, and the second most important noun is the accusative. So as I'm grading your whatever you're writing in Latin, your sentences, your stories, those are the things I'm going to be looking for most closely. Do you have a nominative in the correct case? Do you have an accusative in the correct case? And also, of course, is your verb endings matching your subject? So let's talk a little bit about what a sentence looks like. In English, we're used to this word order. We have our subject first, then we take our verb, and then we take our direct object. Hopefully many of you realize after spending a year or two in Latin that Latin does things differently. All right, Latin word order, we have our nominative at the beginning, our verb at the end, and our accusative in the middle. All right, so when you're writing a sentence, keep that in mind. That's your typical word order. I would try and stick to this as much as you can. Nominative first, then your accusative, and then your verb. And so when you're writing a sentence, here's what I want you to do. Whenever I have like a vocab write where I give you a bunch of vocab words, I want you to first write it in English. Write in English, all right? You're used to thinking about subjects and direct objects in your native language. It'll make it much easier. I noticed that when I was grading some of your vocab sentences this past week, that people were using nominatives as accusatives and accusatives as nominatives, not putting the correct ending on a verb. And I think a lot of that can be remedied if you first write it in English. So here, this is a simple sentence I'm going to make. And when you're writing for me, you can do very simple sentences. All right? So the mother enters the house. So we wrote in English. Now we got to think, okay, what is our subject? Well, actually, no, scratch that. Start with your verb. We always want to start with our verb. All right? So we have our verb enters here, our action. So now we got to ask ourselves, who is doing that action? All right? And that is, of course, the mother. So that's what's going to be our nominative. Then we ask ourselves, what's receiving that action? What is entering, acting upon in the house? So then we go back and we say, okay, we'll consult our charts. We'll make sure that our mother has the correct ending with the A, E, U, S, I, question mark, or ES ending. And so hopefully many of you remember that the word for mother is mater. And we're also going to check, okay, well, how many mothers are there? Is it singular or plural? Here, of course, mother is singular, so it's just going to be mater. All right? So enters the house. We know that the house is being acted upon, so it needs to be accusative. We have one house, because it's not houses, so we'll need an AM, UM, or EM ending. Hopefully you remember that the word for house is villa, so the accusative form of villa would be villam. All right, and then we go to enters. Now, here, when you make your verb, this is very important. We look at the English translation, enters. When is that happening? Is it happening now? Is it happening in the past? Is it happening in the future? Hopefully you would know that enters is the present tense. Okay, so we got our tense done. Now we got to match our ending for who is doing that action. All right, so hopefully you have your verb charts also written down somewhere. All right, and you would know, okay, if the mother is doing it, that is a he, she, or it verb. And therefore, the verb should end in a T. So you would put intrat. All right. As I'm grading these, I'm looking at that ending. I don't care if you mix up the vowel before the T. If you put an IT or an ET, I don't really care. But I do want you to have the correct ending that matches the subject. Mother, we got one mother. That's a he, she, or it. It needs to have a he, she, or it ending. All right, let's go down to the second one here. Let's make it plural. All right, so we have praises. Praises. All right. That is our verb. The son praises the merchant. All right. So when we think about who's doing that action, we realize that it is the sons. We have plural sons. So we're going to be looking at the plural category. So A, E, I, or E, S. We hopefully will remember that the word for sons in Latin is filius. All right. It's masculine. So then when we make it plural, it ends in an I. All right, and then who is being praised? Who is receiving that action? The merchant. So we go back to our chart and we say, all right, we have one merchant. It needs to be accusative because it's receiving the action, so it'll be an AM, UM, or EM ending that will be needed. So we will have mercatorem. All right, and then praises. All right, praises. Again, this is happening in the present tense. If it was imperfect, it would be was praising. If it was in the perfect, it would be praised. If it was in the pluperfect, it would be had praised. But since it's praises, we know it is the present. If we remember our present tense endings, O if I'm doing it, S if you're doing it, T if he or she or it is doing the action, MUS if we are doing the action, TIS if y'all are doing the action, and NT if multiple they, he, she, or it's are doing an action. So when we look at our subject sons, that is a they, that is a multiple he, she, or it. So our verb will need to end in NT. All right. So always make sure your verb ending matches your subject. All right. Most important thing. One last thing I want to touch upon. For easy sentences, you're often going to be using linking verbs. Est, erat, sunt. Things like that. In Latin, linking verbs, think of it as an equal sign. You put one noun on one side of the equal sign, another noun on the other side, and they have to be the same case. They have to be nominative. So, like in this sentence, pater est argentarius. Pater is nominative, argentarius is nominative. So just know that when you're using a linking verb, est, erat, anything that means is or was, you're going to probably you will have two nominatives in the sentence. The father is the banker. All right? So just keep that in mind. If you're using est, and this is the only time you need to use est. I also see some people putting like est with a present tense verb, like in our sentence here. The mother, if I had the mother is entering the house, that's also present tense. And I notice sometimes people might put intrat est. Don't do that. Est is used as a linking verb. Intrat would be your main verb. You do not need to add est. So just a few tips. Hopefully that helped you for when you're composing your sentences for me. All right, guys. Take care.